All right, for this final video, I'm going to show you some tricks for tweaking colors and maybe some ideas for building your collage. So as you can see, I have a background layer that I brought in. I've got that bean that I cut out in a previous video, and I've also got a coffee cup that I cut out. And I've got a cool trick I want to show you. Um, you're not tied to the colors that they give you, right? So originally I was thinking of maybe making this as a beach scene or a water scene and changing the color of my background to something blue, like a blue sky and water. Um, so for doing that, there's this great tricks down here at the bottom of my layers again. I click the layer that I want to manipulate, and I'm going to click that little circle in the middle. It's a circle that's half black, half white, tipped over. These things called adjustment layers. If you click this, there's all these things we can do to adjust. Think of Photoshop basically as a fancy calculator. Basically, all of our pixels, there's just some information about the colors. And so really, your image, just for kicks, you zoom way in, you're going to get this grid of colored dots, right? Um, Photoshop treats this basically as a giant grid full of numbers. And there's numbers that represent the colors for each of these dots. So it's really a giant calculator. So these adjustment layers are kind of equations, if you will, over the top of those numbers that'll let us do all kinds of cool things. Um, Rambling way to basically say, hey, this is cool. So I'm going to hit that and I'm going to play with one called hue and saturation. We're going to get this thing that pops up. It's a new layer that says, hey, this is hue and saturation. And I'm going to have the ability to mess with the properties. So hue is your color. So I actually have this wonderful slider. I can change this to whatever color I want. Saturation is the amount of color. So if I take it down to a low saturation, you're going to get just a hint of color. If I go all the way to the end, you lose all your color and it becomes grayscale. Or I could go the other way and really push this all the way up and get super bright saturated color. Maybe something in the blues for like a nice beach scene. Lightness, also sometimes called value, and lightness value is your lights and darks. So you can see that I can drag my lightness up and just really wash it all out. If I go all the way to the end, I get white. Conversely, if I drag it to the left, I go darker. And if I go all the way to the left, I get pure black. So yeah, I can do something cool for that. And then I was thinking maybe of doing the cup. Oh wait, no, before I go on that, you'll see that my hue and saturation comes with its own layer mask, right? In a previous video, we talked about layer mask. So what this does is it gives us the ability to control with black and white where that effect is being applied. Right? So if I decide that maybe I want this down here to be just brown, I can just go back, and what I'm doing is painting with black, and I'm hiding the effect where I do not want to see that color shift. I'm not doing a great job, but that's okay. Right? And so then I can do a nice little coloring, and maybe I get a bigger brush, and now I can have, you know, some dark choppy waters and a blue sky, and I went not so good, so I can flip black to white and just paint out where I don't want to see it. It's really a pretty cool and powerful tool. The great thing with this is, since this is just a layer, I can turn it on and off, right? Just by clicking that little eyeball. So I can hide the effect. If I decide that I want to go back at a later date and change the color and say, you know, instead of a normal sky, I want to do a Martian landscape, right? And give it a nice dark red sky. I have the ability to do that, which is really pretty cool. And then I was thinking, you know, maybe I could do something with these beans and make something. And then I decided, you know what? I kind of like the way this looks. It looks like kind of a bearded person. I know that's my imagination, right? But that looks like it could be skin and a beard, right? So I thought, you know what? I'm going to use these pieces and make a little face. And I can play with symmetry with this. So um, I thought maybe the bean, free transform, right? Command T. The bean could become maybe a little mouth, right? Actually, no, I want to go the other way. This person has bigger bottom lip. Right, so now I got a little mouth. And again, if I want to do an adjustment layer, hue and saturation, maybe I can tint that a little bit. But you start seeing a problem, right? With hue and saturation, or all these adjustment layers, they work with everything below where the layer shows. So as you can see, I have this above both the bean layer and the background layer that I had named beach. I only wanted to affect just the bean layer. So there's a great trick called clipping. What it is up here in my adjustment layer, and all of these adjustment layers have this option. There's going to be this little icon here that's a little box with an arrow pointing down. And if I click that, what you'll see is this whole thing toggles over, and I got a little arrow pointing down. This says, hey, this only affects this layer below it. And I can toggle that on and off with this icon here. Or, again, quick keys, the Alt key. And if I hold my Alt key in between the two layers down here, you'll see that I get that same cursor, and then I can just click, and now it's affecting. So now I have the ability, I can change that kind of mouth shape. Maybe I want it a little bit brighter. I got some lips going on. And I thought, okay, then my coffee cup, I can rotate. Right, and it's starting to look kind of like big O eyebrows, but kind of this little eyeball thing. I thought, okay, that's kind of cool, right? You can kind of start seeing how there's a face there. I thought, all right, if that's working, I need like maybe a little eyeball. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to be simple and boring and just make, zoom in a little bit. I'm just going to do a big black dot for an eyeball. So there you go. You guys can kind of start seeing, hopefully, a little face starting to form. Um, that's on its own layer and a cup. So now that I have these two, and maybe I want to move something, I run into an issue. See, if I start moving this, I want to move both of these together. So what we can do is, holding down the control key, I can pick and select both layers so that they're a group. Well, they're selected. We're going to turn them into a group. We have the little icon again at the bottom of our layers palette. We're doing a lot of that today. We have our trash can to throw away. We have the little plus in a box to make a new one. We have a little manila folder. A little manila folder kind of acts like a folder. We click that, we have a group. I can open and close the group, and you'll see that the objects that I put into the group are now sort of filed away. So I can move them individually if I'm inside the group and I pick on a layer. But if I pick on the group itself, I can now move the entire group. This gives me the advantage of making something more complex made up of multiple layers, which is really pretty cool. Now I need two of these, and I'm going for kind of a symmetry look here, so maybe that one comes over here. We want to make a copy of this group. We have a couple ways of doing this. One, we can click and drag that group down to the new layer icon, the little plus in a box, and it makes a copy. And if I move it, you'll see I now have two. Another way of doing this that's pretty cool and a lot quicker and easier. With the group selected, I'm going to hold down the Alt key and use my Move tool and just click and drag. And I can make out a copy much quicker. So now I have this little person, they're looking off to the side. I kind of wanted to do the symmetry thing. So we have our free transform, and I can scale, can make a copy of this and do stuff. There's also, if I right click while I'm in a free transform, we actually have a bunch of other things we can do. We can distort this, we can do some perspective tricks and skews, lots of neat tricks. There's also some flips. So I can flip this horizontal, and now I have a symmetry. So I've basically just taken a copy of it and flipped it over. Now I have kind of a symmetry line being formed. Hit OK, and now I've got kind of a little person. Now there isn't a perfect symmetry line, right? We have what's called implied symmetry. So the cups and the eyes are perfect, but of course this beard is not a perfect symmetry, and the little bean is very definitely not a symmetry across the line. But there's enough there to still imply that there's a symmetry, and we can still kind of imagine that there is that mirror line because the shape itself is enough to kind of imply that, yeah, there is a symmetry there. So with this, we did some fun things with colors and adjustment layers. We've started building symmetry, start making some sort of picture. And I kind of like this little happy face. Maybe I want a little nose. So I'm gonna need to make a new layer. I'm gonna do small, maybe like that, look like a nose. No, maybe like this. That one kind of works. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but there's kind of an implied symmetry there. Actually, I think I want that to be smaller. Thinner stroke. There you go. And I can have fun designing my nose, I guess, however I want it. Oh, that ruins symmetry as well. So right there, we have just a nice symmetrical nose. I think that's all. Thank you.